Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for June 15, 2023, the Mile High Club. We begin with that story from the Financial Times as Ryanair announces it has dismissed its chief pilot over unacceptable behavior involving a pattern of repeated inappropriate and unacceptable behavior towards junior female pilots. A senior company insider said a note in an email to all employees informing them the chief pilot had been dismissed. So, not quite sure what he was doing up there, but it caught up with him. Next up from Al Jazeera. Once again, somewhat surprising, but perhaps not. Fairly often contributor to the Daily Compliance News, as Guatemalan court convicts prominent journalist Jose Ruben Zamora. He is an investigative journalist who broke the story of massive corruption in the Central American country, and he was convicted by a court for 6 years in prison for money laundering. Obviously, this was a trumped-up charge, and it was simply the government trying to get rid of someone who said something they didn't like. Sounds like a former president in the United States. Next up, from the New York Times, the National Labor Relations Board has reversed a Trump-era ruling widening the definition of who is an employee. Labor regulators issued a ruling Tuesday that makes it more likely for workers to be considered employees rather than contractors on federal laws. Overruling one of the most corrupt rulings of the Republican NLRB, the decision effectively increases the number of workers like drivers, construction workers, or janitors who have a federally protected right to unionize or take other collective action. And our final story comes to us from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Dylan Tokar reporting that the DeFi group, was found liable for violating commodities exchange rules by a federal law. And now the CFTC has to try to enforce that ruling by getting money out of them. On Thursday, federal judge Orrick ordered the DAO, D-A-O, sued by the CFTC to pay a $643,000 plus fine. He approved the CFTC's request for an order to take down a website associated with the group. But a securities lawyer quoted by Tokar in the article said he had no idea how they were going to enforce it. So, getting a judgments against a DAO is one thing, but enforcing is another. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.